All right, so this is my video on a beginner's guide for the Tokyo Marui Hi Capa 5.1. This will also essentially work for the Goldmatch Hi Capa as well as the 4.3, but this is specifically tailored for the Hi Capa 5.1. And this video is primarily just aimed at new owners of this gun or people who are looking into purchasing one of these and want to know sort of everything there is that they need to know before they start using a Tokyo Marui Hi Capa 5.1. When you remove the lid, you will be greeted with a manual here, and this is essentially all going to be in Japanese. So at least to me, this manual is useless, and to many of you, it will also be useless. But now we have the gun. So basically, you get the gun, you get a magazine, you get a steel punch, you get a cleaning rod, you get an optional rail for the underside of the gun, and then underneath this compartment over here, you also get some BBs and some dry fire pieces, and I will show how everything like that works. Removing the gun and looking at the gun first, yours may or may not have an orange tip on the end of it. If you're in America, the orange tip is required for import. However, the way that these guns were designed, they were not designed with an orange tip in mind. So it's very common for this orange tip to have fallen off, to be broken, to be just non-existent. Or in some of the worst cases, this orange tip can actually interfere with the action of the gun. So you will probably want to remove the orange tip, and that is my recommendation. Orange tips are generally not required in the United States, except for at the point of sale. Once you purchase the gun, you can almost always remove the orange tip, but you should double check your local laws to make sure everything you do is all within the rules and everything like that. The reason why that orange tip can interfere with the gun is there is basically two barrels. There's an outside barrel and an inside barrel on these airsoft guns. And when you shoot the gun, the slide's going to move back, and it's going to move the outer barrel, as you can see. It'll move it backwards. And when it moves backwards, the inner barrel does not move with it. So the inner barrel is going to stay forwards. And sometimes on the inside of this orange tip, the orange tip will hit the inner barrel and it will cause the gun to jam. So if your gun is jamming, see if the orange tip's on there. I would recommend removing the orange tip, especially if it's causing a jamming issue. To remove the orange tip, the way that I usually do it is I just take a pair of pliers and you crunch around it a couple times, just crunch down a little bit to free the glue, and then you can remove it. Otherwise, you may want to put it in some hot water to soften the glue and then pop it off. These are typically just going to be glued in. And to note, the barrel is not a threaded barrel. You will see online a lot of people say that the barrel is threaded. That is not the case. There is fake rifling on the inside of the Tokyo Marui outer barrel. And that fake rifling can sometimes look like threads, but it is not. Also, sometimes the orange tip that is in there is a threaded orange tip. So the glue, when it's glued, will appear as if it is threaded. If you remove the orange tip and the glue is still stuck inside, it will appear threaded. A genuine Tokyo Marui Hi Capa does not have threads, so keep that in mind. Continuing with functioning of the gun and potential issues with jamming, if you want to remove the slide from the lower, you have to line up the pin with this notch here, and that will allow you to be able to poke in on this side, this pin right here. You can poke that out, and it should pop out like so. If yours is sticky, another thing you can do is you can reach inside through the fake ejection port, and you can usually just trace where the slide catch is and find it on the other side, and you can poke in on a different spot to free it up a little bit easier. The pin that comes with the gun is made of a sort of a lower quality metal, so it is possible for this to break. Typically, this piece right here will come off, and then this sleeve will come off, and then it'll just be fully into 3 different pieces. Or it could break. So this is a part that you may need to replace, like a necessary part in the future, but typically this will last you quite a while. removing the slide from the lower. If you want to adjust your hop up, there's a wheel right here. It is a serrated wheel. If you rotate it counterclockwise, that will increase the hop. The hop is the amount of backspin on a BB, so how much lift the BB has. The more hop you have, the straighter the BB will fly. If it's heavier, it'll just not fall as fast. I don't know how to explain that, but basically it just is what stabilizes the BB and makes it shoot farther. However, if you use lower weight BBs, you will need to decrease the hop potentially, because if you have too much hop with a low weight BB, it's going to just shoot upwards, which is not good. You want to adjust it until the BB flies as straight as possible for as long as possible with whatever weight of BB you are using. Right here, this is the nozzle and the blowback unit. This is what controls the slide blowing back each time. If your gun is jamming up, it is most likely, if it's not the orange tip, it is going to be inside of the nozzle. You can grab onto this rectangular hole here with your fingernail, and you can pull the nozzle forwards. And way up here in the front, inside the nozzle, there is a rubber piece. That rubber piece, if it gets dry, it can cause issues and basically prevent the slide from moving properly, and it can cause it to get stuck. If that rubber piece is dry, you will need to apply some lubricant, either a silicone oil or a ptfe grease. Either of those two will work fine. The oil is typically easiest because you just drop some drops and it's fine. If you want to use the grease, you will typically have to disassemble this whole piece, and so you can put grease around the entire rubber part inside of the nozzle. Other things in here you need to be careful about for braking. If you put a very powerful recoil spring, the recoil spring is what controls how fast the slide moves. If you put a really strong aftermarket recoil spring, you will very likely break the hop-up chamber, and you will have to buy a replacement one of those. But if you keep the stock setup, you should be pretty good and not have to worry about replacing parts. Another thing that is a likely thing that can break is the guide rod. This guide rod is somewhat fragile compared to other parts in this gun, so just keep in mind that the guide rod could break as well, especially if you're using a stronger recoil spring. But the guide rod will usually break before the hop-up chamber does if you use a strong spring, typically, but not always. If you want to sight in your gun, the front sight you can drift, so you can use a punch tool and slowly move it to the left or right to change the front sight if you want to, but usually I will just leave it where it is. I will not ever touch this. And typically these guns are going to fly very straight out of the box, so you don't need to adjust the sights typically. But if you want to, I would recommend using the rear sight, and you have a screw right here, a flathead screw in the center on the top, and that will adjust the elevation of the sight, so it'll move it up and down. And on the side here, there's another flathead screw, and that will adjust the windage, so it'll change the left and right at the back. If you need to sight in your gun, I would only adjust this rear sight. I would leave the front sight exactly how it is. The lower half of the gun is very good. You honestly should not break any parts on the lower. It's very it's very rare for any of the lower parts to break. The only sort of exception to parts in lower breaking is the thumb safety. What happens over time is the way that the left hand and the right hand side are connected. So right now, as you can see, they're going to move together like so. Over time, the connection internally between the two will wear down, and the right hand side, so the side you would use if you're left-handed, will become floppy and not properly change the safety. The right hand side, or the left hand side that you would use if you're a right hand shooter, this one will actually always be good, because this side is what actually controls the inside of the gun. The other side is just mated to this side. So this side will always be correct. This side over time will lose its connectivity, and it will just become floppy. And that is normal. If that bothers you, or if you are a left-handed guy, you will need to replace this thumb safety with a steel safety, so that way you don't have to worry about over time any issues happening. Another thing to note is this, the Hi Capa is essentially a 1911 type of gun. So what that means is there is a grip safety right here. You need to press in on this for the gun to work. If you don't press in on that, the gun will not function. So as you can see right now, I have the hammer cocked, the safety is off, so it's on fire. If I tried to pull the trigger right now, it will not go. And that is because I'm not pressing in on the grip safety over here. So you need to press on the grip safety and then it will fire. So this is very common if you have a very light grip and you're not really holding on to it very good. You could have issues, but if you hold on to it tight, you should have zero issues and it should always fire, like so. And for those of you who are not used to using a manual safety, I do recommend the way that you shoot the gun is to put your thumb on top of the safety like so. If you put your thumb underneath the safety, there is a good potential that while firing, you can accidentally move it upwards and put onto safe, and then obviously the gun's not going to shoot because it's on safety. But if you rest your thumb on top of it like so, it will always fire, and it's impossible for it to go into safety because you are pressing down on it. Moving on to the magazine. These magazines, Tokyo Marui makes a couple different versions, but they're going to be about 30 BBs or so is how many BBs will fit in the magazine. The way to load the magazines is not through the top, it is through this side. So what you need to do is you need to grab on up here with your fingernail. There's a little notch, you can see that, and you pull down the follower. And you will be able to freely load the BBs into this channel here. So I have a speed loader here, but you don't need a speed loader. You could just drop them in with your fingers, but essentially you just place it like so. So the nozzle is in the channel, and you can use your plunger and it will drop them in. Now, if you are very particular, you will need to pay attention and make sure you don't get any gaps like this in there. If you have gaps like that where there's a missing BB, that's totally fine. It will not cause any issues. You just will be missing one bullet basically. So you'll have one less shot, but it will not skip. It won't cause any issues. You won't even notice it. It just says there will be less times you're able to pull the trigger until you're out of ammo, basically. And I probably should have mentioned that before I did that, but if you want to enter the BBs, all you do is you grab back onto it, pull the follower down, and then tilt it so the BBs fall down to the bottom like so, and then tip the magazine over and they will just fall right out. Now, the correct type of gas to use in a Tokyo Marui pistol is low pressure Japanese spec gas. So the one that I have right here is Puff Dino, green gas light power. They will typically mention on here that this is meant for Japanese type and plastic construction guns, which that is what this is. In Japan, by law, the slide has to be plastic, and because of that, these guns have a plastic slide, obviously. Plastic is not going to be as strong as metal is typically. So if you use a very high pressure gas, you are significantly increasing the likelihood of breaking the slide, or also the barrel possibly. So the recommendation is to use the low pressure gas, but that is not very common in America, so it is totally fine if you use green gas. I personally use normal green gas most of the time when I use a Hi Capa, just the standard American green gas, which is higher pressure than this gun is meant for, but you usually don't have any issues. It just will increase the likelihood and decrease the lifespan of the gun. But usually you can still get quite a lot of use on it before you run into any issues. So just keep that in mind. If you're really particular, use the low pressure gas. If you're not, the green gas is just fine. Potentially need to replace the slide at some point, which is oftentimes the funnest part about this gun is replacing parts. So just keep that in mind. Once you replace the slide with the metal slide, honestly, or the slide and the barrel, if you replace the slide in the barrel with an aftermarket like aluminum slide and barrel, you can use whatever gas you want to, and you should basically have no issues. All right, I'm going to put some gas in this. So to put gas in this magazine, the fill valve is on the bottom. It is that silver one there. And basically what you do is you take your gas straight up and down, and you push the gas straight down into the magazine, straight vertical. And there is a hissing noise that you will hear that is totally normal for the Japanese type gun. However, when it is done filling up, it is going to hiss a lot more. So these magazines are nice because you can really easily tell if they're full or not, because when they're full, they're going to hiss a bunch. Hopefully I can capture this on camera and you can see. So right now it'll be just normal, and then you will see a drastic change when it's full. If you saw or heard that difference, that is when it's full. Hopefully that was able to be picked up on camera, but that is when it is full. Now, if you want to just dry fire the gun, just to test it without any BBs, there's two ways to do it. There's the easy way and there's the correct way. I'm going to show you the easy way first. The easiest way to dry fire it and test that your gun is working is obviously put the magazine in, and then you obviously need to cock it. When you cock it, I would recommend looking inside of the gun here to double check there's no BBs in there. Obviously you don't want to accidentally shoot a BB when you're planning on not shooting BBs, so double check there's no BB in there by just looking down inside the chamber there. You should be able to see it. In my case, there's no BB in there, so we're all good. Now, because the magazine is empty, the slide is locked back right here. To unlock the slide, you just press down, obviously, on that. And if I were to dry fire this just with one hand, you will be able to see the gun locked open. And obviously, that's not very useful. You're going to want to be able to test it by shooting multiple shots rapidly. So to test it, you will need to use your other hand and just hold down on the slide catch, and you'll be able to repeatedly dry fire it. Like so, which is perfectly fine. Now, obviously, when you have BBs in here, you'll be able to just shoot it continuously. It's only when it's empty, when the magazine is empty, it will lock the slide open. Now, the correct way to dry fire actually comes inside your box. So underneath this little nameplate here, where it says Hi Capa 51, there is some free BBs, and there is these little dry fire little tabs in here, basically. So obviously you can't read Japanese probably. I definitely can't. There is a picture on the other side that shows you basically what to do. All you do is you take one of these pieces, and you are going to make sure you know what weighs what. So basically, this pointy part is going to go towards the top of the magazine, and the point is also going to be basically down. So it's going to go in like that, all right? And all you do is you pull on the follower again to lower the spring, and you drop it in like so, and then release the spring. And you want to gently release the spring. You never want to let go of this spring ever. If you let go when the follower is way down here at the bottom, there's potential to break the feed lip, or obviously shoot out this dry fire piece, and then you can't really use the piece anymore because it's missing. Now with that dry fire piece in, you can put it in the gun, and we will be able to just shoot it normally without having to hold down on this. So as you can see, that is the correct way to dry fire. And to remove this, obviously just pull down on the tabs, and then you can remove your little piece here. The BBs in here there's only like 100 BBs, which is fine. You could definitely use this to test fire the gun a little bit, but you're not really going to use these at an actual game. I never use these. I just have like 1,000 of these little baggies, but you can do with that what you will. They are good quality BBs, so you don't need to worry about damaging the gun. We are getting close to the end here. This rail piece up here, this is an optional attachment you can add onto your gun. So we can go ahead and lift this up here. Underneath it, there's going to be the 2 screws that you need to attach it. But essentially, this is just going to mount to the bottom of the gun and will allow you to attach a flashlight or a laser. Most people just do flashlights. It is the best attachment for airsoft guns. To install this, what you need to do is remove the slide from the gun. So if you remember, you pull it back until it's lined up with that little half circle there. And pop it out. Inside of the frame, you will see that there are basically 2 holes, essentially. There's an extremely thin amount of metal where those holes are. So all you need to do is just punch out those 2 holes. As you can see on the bottom, you can't even tell they're there, but they're really, really thin. You just punch it out with the included metal punch if you don't have a punch. This included metal punch that is attached to the guide rod by tape. That is what you use to punch it out, and then you just screw it in. The screws come in from the inside, so you screw down like so, and they will screw into the rail piece. I do recommend you Loctite those screws. If those screws come off inside the gun, there's a high potential that those screws can damage parts of the inside of the gun. So you do not want those screws to come out. So I highly recommend you Loctite them in place into this if you choose to attach the rail. Now, obviously, if you have the rail attached, you could obviously remove it and it will be just fine. You just will have those 2 holes in the frame if you chose to punch those holes out. That is essentially all that I have for you guys as far as what you need to know as a new owner of a Tokyo Marui 5.1 Hi Capa. This gun is a lot of fun. This gun, essentially, you can upgrade and customize every single part on this gun, and you can truly make it your own. I have many Hi Capas, and they're always changing. I'm always doing different parts and stuff on them, and you can definitely change the colors and just improve the materials as well on every single part, which is the fun thing. So if anything does break, it's not a big deal. You can replace it. And it's actually kind of fun to replace it, except for the money part. The money is kind of annoying because sometimes the parts can get expensive, but I think it is really cool to be able to customize every single aspect of this gun, personally. If you have any questions, make sure to leave those in the comments below, as well as if you have any sort of upgrades you're looking for. I do have a lot of videos on my channel for different upgrades and replacement parts and customizations for this gun. So hopefully I have what you're looking for already made as a video. If not, let me know in the comments and I might be able to make a new video for you for whatever specific question you have. So have a nice day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this video was useful for you. And make sure you check out the link down below. That is a link to our Discord server, and you are welcome to join. All right? Have a nice day.